Welcome to Easy Eats. My name is Chef Yves Deshane, and I'm here in the Greener Villages Learning Kitchen with Dan Cormier, owner and operator of DC Greens. Morning, Dan.
Morning.
Dan, tell us a little bit about DC Greens. What do you do?
Well, currently we grow microgreens and as well as gourmet mushrooms.
Tell me about microgreens.
Essentially, microgreens are just baby vegetables.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So we grow them to about 2 inches high, and then we cut them. And you can use them in all kinds of dishes for everything.
Cool. What got you into growing microgreens? Is this something did you grow up with a green thumb and then this is what you're doing?
No, not at all. I kind of just fell into it. It was the beginning of COVID, and I ended up getting laid off, and I was kind of looking for something that I could do that also introduced a healthier lifestyle for me and my family. So I kind of ended up falling into it.
So let's get down into the science. So a baby vegetable, what makes the microgreen better than, say, the full-blown big vegetable itself?
Yeah. Well, at this stage, there's about 40% more nutrients than the adult version, right? Because they haven't used up that energy yet to become an adult vegetable. So it's still in that baby plant. So when you cook with it or you eat it, you get all that extra nutrients from the green.
Sort of kind of like when you have like beans, and if you have a sprouted bean, it's got a little bit more protein, a little bit more punch because it's just starting to break open and you get that little tail. So the microgreens are in that growing stage?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so it goes from microgreen to baby green. When is that microgreen no longer a microgreen and going into your kind of like your baby spinach, baby kale kind of deal?
Once they get their true leaf. So they start out as a seed and then they sprout. And that is before photosynthesis. Once that happens, then they become a microgreen. And then, so they have 2 leaves as a microgreen. Once they get the 4th set, the 3rd and 4th leaf, that is now essentially a small vegetable. Okay. And then it just continues to grow.
So what kind of microgreens do you grow? Are there certain vegetables that you should avoid? Or can you essentially turn almost anything into a microgreen?
Any vegetable that you can eat can be turned into or be a microgreen. Some don't taste very good. But if they're edible as an adult, then they're edible as a baby plant.
Okay, and are we talking just the green part? Like, can you have like a micro turnip green?
You can.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and microgreen beets as well.
Well, yeah. I know the beet greens are something that I really, really enjoy, and these are really cool. Like, I really like the vibrant color of those beets.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
And stuff like that. So, and you're also into mushrooms. So I know that when we met at the Northside Market, you were just doing microgreens.
Yes.
And then one day you came out and you said, with these lovely mushrooms. So what got you into that? Just like a natural progression?
Yeah,
or?
it felt like a natural progression into the next thing, right? It's definitely interesting, a lot of work, but it's so much fun. And you learn so much as you go.
Cool. So is there a market for your microgreens? Like, do you just sell at market or do you sell online? How can we get your microgreens?
Yeah, I sell to, I guess, restaurants. I also do like local shops. So there's a few in the city that my products are at, and then also markets as well. Yeah.
Cool. So microgreens, I know as a chef in different restaurants and stuff like that, we used to use microgreens as just a beautiful garnish, which is really cool and awesome, but I know that there's more to it than that. What other things can we do with microgreens?
Virtually anything and everything. So you can make, families can do sandwiches, soups, you can do shakes. They're great on like burgers, wraps, all kinds. Stir fry. It's endless. You can also use them in drinks. They're extremely versatile. So you can use them in a ton of things.
So to add that little protein punch, I guess, to the
flavor. Yeah.
Okay, you're cool. Right on. So you got some microgreens in front of you today.
I do,
some of
yeah.
the most popular ones. Which ones do you like? Which ones are your favorite ones to grow? Which ones are easier? Are there some that are easier to grow than others, or are they all pretty much kind of give them light, give them water?
For the most part, it's light and water, and just let them do their thing. There are a few, and I find it depends on the seed hull, right?
Okay.
The shell.
Okay.
Some, like the beets, are a little harder, so it takes longer. But for the most part, they all come out really well. My favorite is probably the blends. I like those because you can use them in so many different dishes. We'll turn around and take like one of our mix, the spicy lentil, and we'll add just a handful of blueberries, some shaved almonds, like almond slivers.
Yeah.
Throw that on, a little balsamic vinaigrette, and it's a full-on salad.
Nice.
And when you have guests over, you take literally 10 seconds to do that, and it looks amazing, right? So it's really nice.
Now, how long does it take to get from seed to microgreen?
Yeah, on average, it takes about a week, 7
Okay.
days. Yeah, which is really cool.
So you get your turnover just kind of quickly
Yeah.
as it goes.
Yeah, so you can do this in your home, and within 7 days have fresh, healthy food right there that you cut, and you know everything that's in it, right? So it's super awesome.
So you say you don't have to go to to get these done. You can do it at home. Is it hard? So it's not that hard.
It's a little bit of work,
Okay.
but once you get the hang of it and you have all the material that you need, it's really not that difficult. It's essentially the same as looking after a houseplant, only you eat it and it's really healthy for you.
Starting just during the pandemic, was it to curb boredom, or did you always kind of have an interest in this, or that kind of thing?
I wouldn't say I had an interest directly in growing. I have never been one with a green thumb. I was, one, being home, and two, I think with the pandemic, I wanted to be independent on the healthy food that I had for my family, right? So the easiest way in my mind to do that is to grow it myself.
No, and that's great. And understandably, when the pandemic hit, there was kind of a whole uncertainty, and the bringing back to basics, or that homesteading that people had kind of moved away from, became popular. Stuff that I do became more fervent, and people were learning how to try to work and stuff from home, which is great. And you're right. If you know where it comes from, and you know how you've grown it, then you know that it's safe for you. So you're down to simple, easy, basic. No, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So before the pandemic, what did you do?
Carpentry.
Okay, so that is a leap. Yeah,
It is. Yeah. Definitely, for sure.
Well, now that we're out of the pandemic and stuff like that, I guess business might be a little bit busier than it is now. Are you looking to expand? Are you ready to expand?
I am. Yeah, I am looking to probably get a commercial spot and grow the greens as well as the mushrooms. Yeah. So everything's kind of opened up and picked up quite a bit. It's
nice.
exciting.
Welcome back to Easy Eats. Again, I'm Chef Yves Deshane, and we're in the Greener Villages Learning Kitchen with Dan Cormier, owner and operator of DC Greens. And we're going to be making a mushroom risotto. You don't just do greens, you also grow mushrooms.
I do, yeah.
So we're going to make a really simple dish. I know that this is your wife's favorite, because when we were chatting at the market, she said, if you ever have them on, make sure you make a risotto.
Yes.
So this one's for Stephanie. We're going to make a risotto. It's really simple. It's really easy.
Awesome.
We're going to use some of your mushrooms today. So
Yes.
we're using, well, what mushroom are we using here, Dan?
So this one is personally one of my favorites. I love the look. I love everything about it. This is lion's mane.
Cool.
So this one, it flakes off. It's not like any other mushroom, right? So you can turn around. We'll If we have like
well, what we'll do is we'll start off the risotto, and then you can show us.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do now is we're going to put our olive oil in the pan, and we're just going to let that warm. And then with that, we're just going to add our aromatics, which is our onions and our garlic. And we're just going to saute this up until they're translucent, so about a minute or so. Just like that. And then once that's going on, and then you said those are the lion's mane mushrooms?
Yeah.
So we got that going on right here, and then those are translucent, and then I'm going to add my rice. And then you always want to toast the rice of your risotto, and it's a special kind of rice. It's an arborio rice.
Right.
Arborio is an Italian rice. It's short. What it does is it produces starch. That's what causes the creaminess. It's not, people think you put cream and stuff into a risotto, but you don't. It's the creaminess of the starches that get built up. It's almost like making an oatmeal or a porridge with the rice instead of using oats.
Gotcha.
And it's a savory application instead of a sweet. So at this point right here, I always like to put my mushrooms in right now.
Okay.
And we're talking about lion's mane, which has a really cool property because they kind of, it's a really cool mimic, isn't it?
Yeah. It breaks apart kind of like crab meat, right? Or pulled pork. It pulls in a lot of flavor, right? So it's mild. So you can add all the flavors for that. And the texture-wise is the same. So if you're not somebody who eats seafood or isn't really into eating meat, then this is an amazing alternative.
Cool. So let's start
so you
breaking.
Want me to start?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Start
and I
flaking
can
that
kind
in.
of show you here. Like, see, it just kind of flakes off, right? You just pull, and they kind of break up into these little flakes, right? And you can continuously break it down if you want big chunks, right? Or if you want it really fine, go a little quicker here and get some of this in.
Perfect. I'll mix this around.
Yeah.
And they're
You want
really
them in like
delicate.
this
Yeah,
size?
that's
Okay.
perfect.
Perfect.
So it's almost going to feel like, and if we wanted to, we could add the flavorings to a lobster type risotto.
Yeah.
But with your mushroom.
Exactly.
Which is great.
And another really cool property is, so these have been used in studies for Alzheimer's and dementia.
Okay, cool.
And it helps in those cases, right? So it has some great health benefits.
That's what I like about mushrooms is mushrooms are grown, they have a connectivity, they've got that mycelium kind of connection.
They do, yeah.
If there's one mushroom, there's a whole bunch. How do you go about growing them?
For me, I start right from the base. So I make my own blocks for them to grow on.
Okay.
I make my own mycelium, which is essentially what mushrooms start from.
Okay.
Right? The mushroom itself is the fruit body of the mycelium. The mycelium is basically a really intricate root system. And then in the proper environment, if they get the right amount of water, temperature, then they fruit. And when they fruit, you end up getting these beautiful, delicious mushrooms.
Mushrooms, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the risotto, I've toasted all the rice up. We added
Smells
the
amazing.
mushrooms, and then I hit it up with a little bit of chicken broth.
Okay.
And then I just let it kind of absorb. So that's the secret of risotto. Really, is you're slowly cooking it, and that's what's releasing the starch. So I'm mixing it around, and then I
let me know when.
Wait till absorb, and then we're going to hit it up with a couple more ladlefuls.
Right.
So a couple of ladles in there. And then the secret is it's constant stirring and letting everything absorb. So we'll put that in, we'll turn that on, and then all we're going to do is we're just going to, as we chat, I'm just going to keep on stirring this, making sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. And once it's absorbed, we just keep on adding liquid until it is until the rice is cooked. And you're looking for it to be al dente, which means still firm to the bite, but still a little bit of a chew. So it's not rock hard, but it's still got some give. You don't want mushy rice, is what you're kind of looking for. So how many varieties of mushrooms do you grow, Dan?
Currently, we grow, I want to say about 14.
14?
14, yeah.
That's cool. And which ones have you brought to market? Because I know that I've seen some really nice pictures, and I mean we go to the same market. So tell me about those pink oysters.
Right. They're up there with the the lion's mane, pink oyster. And I mean, they're just beautiful. They look like a pink rose, right? And they're so delicious. I know another vendor at our market turned around and done up some of the pink oysters. Now, him and his family are not mushroom people whatsoever, but they tried them and they deep fried them, and the family loved it.
Mushrooms are a great mimic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So for vegetarian or vegan-led lifestyles, that seems to work out really, really well.
Oh, yeah.
When you grow them, like you're not growing them outside, are you? So
No.
how do you do it? Like I know that there's some people that inoculate logs and then they go it that way,
Right.
but you do it a little bit differently. Can you just walk me through your process? Like what kind of equipment do you have? What
Yeah.
kind of equipment do you use? And
For the mushrooms, so we have a grow tent.
Okay.
Right? It's a 4x4 tent, and that's what we keep the blocks in and essentially grow them in. So that way I can control heat, humidity, and all of that, right? And we put the blocks on racks. And then just with the proper amount of moisture and temperature, they'll fruit.
Okay.
And then we turn around and harvest them, and we bring them to either markets, restaurants, or the small shops in around the city.
Right on. And you say blocks. Like what are those blocks? They're not a cinder block. Are they just like, or
No.
are they a block of dirt? Like what's that block made of?
The blocks are usually made of a grain and sawdust.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we inoculate them, and the mycelium spread through that block, and it kind of holds everything together, right? And then we put them in the tent, and they'll fruit.
What is mycelium? I mean, I'm sure we don't have a true definition, but kind of what is it for the layman?
Right.
What does it do?
You can think of it as the root system, like on a tree, right? That's what it is. So it goes through the block, which is the wood, and just kind of roots all through and kind of holds all that together so it can eat that block. And it gets the nutrients that it needs. And then after that, if everything is right, temperature, all that stuff, then it'll fruit, and you'll get the fruit body, which is the mushroom.
This looks great. We're going to add a little bit more here, and then there we are. There we go. So turnaround time. So from inoculation to full bloom, how long does that take?
Mushrooms, a little more difficult. Anywhere between a month and a half to 2 months, and that's from start to finish.
Okay. So you had said it was a science to it. So you
It
have
is.
to. So what is the science? Like what's the perfect ratio for growing mushrooms?
Every mushroom, every type is a little bit different.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess every batch would be a little bit different too, would it? So if you were
can be,
if we're
yeah.
growing these lion's mane, if you get a perfect batch this time, are you guaranteed with the right metrics that you'll get another bloom on your block, or
The I guess percentage goes up.
okay? Yeah.
I guess comes again back to the mycelium and that network of information going back and forth. If everything is perfect, it's always firing information, right? So if everything's perfect, it'll say time to fruit.
Okay, cool.
If something is off, even for say an hour or a day, it's going to send that information out as well.
So they're sensitive, are they?
They are
Okay.
absolutely very sensitive, yeah.
Right on. Dan, do you offer your expertise or anything like that? Do you offer classes and stuff like that to grow mushrooms, or is this something that you're not, or you're keeping close to your chest just yet?
It's something that I'm still learning on right now.
Okay, yeah.
At some point, I would love to go down that road, because I think when it comes to the greens and mushrooms, if people know this stuff, they can do it themselves, and you learn so much. You also have an independence for yourself and your family, right? And your community. So I would love to go down that road. I think I got to get a little more experience in all of it, right? there's always something new to learn when it comes to any of this.
Absolutely, and I mean, growing your own mushrooms is probably a little bit safer than just going out into the woods and walking the trails and seeing all those lovely things adding to the basket, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why I opted. There's a lot of people who forage, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I have never done it. I would love to. But I am one of those people who is afraid that I will pick the wrong one and end up in the ER.
Absolutely.
So I curb that by growing them myself, so I know exactly what ones I'm eating.
Perfect. So this is almost where it needs to be. I'm just going to taste a little bit of the rice. And it's exactly where I'd like it to be. So if you want to grab a little bit here, just to have a nice, grab that spoon.
Okay. This is my expertise.
There you go. So you're going to tell that that's al dente, so there's a little bit of bite left to it. We're going to turn this down to a medium. And now we're just going to finish it.
Yeah.
So an easy way to finish it, and what's really neat is it stops the cooking process, is if you add a pat of butter.
Okay. Right. You were saying that you added the butter to like slow the cooking process?
Well, yeah, what you do is the butter's cold. So what you're doing is you're kind of shocking it, and then what happens is you don't want this to continue on cooking because then it'll get softer and it'll get mushier.
Okay.
So what we're doing is it's called mounting with butter, so it's going to give it a nice high gloss, but it's also slowing the cooking process. So then that way it's going to stay where it needs to be.
Okay.
So we've cut the heat down to low, and we're just kind of bringing that in together, and then I'm just going to add 3/4 of my Parmesan cheese. Now you can use Parmesan cheese if you want. You can use blue cheese if you'd like. I love blue cheese and mushrooms, so that's the way I would be leaning.
I'm a Parm guy.
And I knew that, so that's why we're doing it with Parm. And Parm is a little bit more of a classic combination.
Right.
I also like making risotto with barley.
Okay.
And barley works out really, really good. And it's got the same kind of properties. I call it the Canadian risotto. And that's when I put my bacon and I put blue cheese and I put mushrooms. And then it goes well with a nice beef or wild game.
That looks so good.
It does.
And you can see how it kind of got shinier with the butter, right?
Absolutely. And then if you're looking at these mushrooms, you're right. It looks like a piece of pulled chicken or something like that. So that's ready the way it is. I'm going to grab a couple bowls right here. And then my favorite part here is we're going to garnish these with your lovely microgreens. So any microgreens you want, really, but I'm really aiming towards these beet greens. I'm really liking the pink is a really nice push.
If you close your eyes, right?
Yep.
It's beet. That's what you're getting. You get that beet flavor. And most microgreens are the same. Like radish, if you close your eyes and take a bite, you're taking a bite of a radish.
Well, not only that, I find that it's the flavor intensified. And then that's what it is. It adds that different spice as well, which is perfect. Thanks a lot for joining me today, Dan. This is great. I always love to have an excuse to make risotto, and today's just another one. So there we go. And with these microgreens, Dan, it looks fantastic.
It does.
That pop of color.
I love that.
And I don't even hate that these greens are bleeding into the risotto a little bit and just adding that contrast.
And you get that earthy flavor with the mushroom, and then again with the beet, right?
Perfect. Thanks a lot for joining me, Dan.
Thank you, man.
So good.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.